Thanks for joining us today. I'm Cody Holga. Survivors of childhood sex abuse go through hell and have worked for years to first be seen and believed, then second, get justice for the indescribable trauma they've experienced. And once again, they are in a race against time in Missouri, where state lawmakers are in the waning days of their legislative session.
Missouri has made strides, but we are not finished.
Survivors, as they have for decades, are working to change the rules, urging state lawmakers to adjust the law to help in their fight for justice. That includes expanding the statute of limitations, the amount of time you have to prosecute a crime or file a lawsuit. Right now, criminal sex abuse cases can move forward at any time in Missouri if the victim's underage, but there's a clock on civil suits. Most survivors have until age 31 to file civil claims against abusers and age 26 for other defendants. The problem is, it takes many victims years to have the courage to come forward, which can make revisiting a case nearly impossible in Missouri.
The current law isn't neutral, it's negligent. If justice requires a child to process trauma on an adult timeline, justice was never designated for victims.
Advocates also want to change Missouri's constitution so survivors could retroactively seek civil damages from their abusers. When they went to Jeff City in February, you could feel the optimism, albeit cautious. This was the year, survivors said, that they believed real change could happen. But it hasn't yet. Out of the handful of proposed bills on the table at the start of the session, only one, the push to retroactively sue abusers, is really still alive. If passed, it would go to voters to decide. But it's being pushed back in the state Senate and hasn't been allowed to hit the floor for a vote. Republican Senate President Pro Tem Cindy O'Loughlin wrote on Facebook that she's concerned about what the bill could do, writing, "It is not inconceivable that an accused could already be dead, leaving others to shoulder responsibility for something they had no part in nor knew anything about." That stance led to backlash from survivors.
I would say to Senator Laughlin, my abuser is not dead. And if given the opportunity, I can absolutely guarantee you he is still abusing to this day.
Senator O'Loughlin backed a House bill instead, which would raise the age of reporting abuse to 41, a far cry from what many survivors had hoped. Let's get to the heart of the matter with KMBC 9's Krista Taschel, who's been following this fight for justice for really years now. Let's start with the clock here. The session ends in 12 days. So what are you hearing from survivors and even the sponsors of these bills that haven't quite gotten to the finish line?
I have heard a great deal from survivors. They're incredibly disappointed, and they feel there is not a sense of urgency to help get them justice. I mean, this is the fifth session in a row that bills that are going, or resolutions that are going forward or trying to go forward, they're not. And this one, there's only one that still has a chance, 12 days, but not much of a chance if we're being realistic in political terms. And survivors also tell me in very strong wording, they say they're parents now. They were abused as children, they're parents and even grandparents now. And they came forward after the age of 31, so they can't really do anything for a civil suit in the state of Missouri. And they say if senators who are currently there in this session, their parents, grandparents, even great-grandparents, if they had a child that came to them and said, "Mom, Dad, after the age of 31, I was abused," I feel, and the survivors have told me this very specifically, that you would be turning tables like Jesus in the temple to try to help them if that were your kid. So they say, what if this were a senator's child? God forbid. Anyone is abused, but God forbid that.
We mentioned Republican Senate leaders support raising the reporting age as opposed to this retroactive approach, that SJR 93 that we've been talking about. What would the impact be if that's what happens instead? They get another 10 years.
Yes. Which is
it's
great.
Some progress.
It is some progress, but if you talk to survivors, they are not satisfied at all with that. The major advocates for extending that 10 years, they say that's almost nothing. There was talk at a very short period of time that they could extend it possibly to the age of 65, which would be incredible, but that is not on the table. Actually, this has been tabled now.
So what happens now? I imagine there's a very public push to try to get the attention of lawmakers in the next week and a half or so.
Oh, survivors have been blowing up their phones. They've been trying through emails. They have been trying through old-fashioned letter writing campaigns. They have done a social media campaign as well. They are trying to get people like us to listen and probably just put the word out that they are trying to get this passed. They just want to be heard, because I don't think the onus should be on a survivor to go to the Senate over and over and over again to speak their truth, and then they feel abandoned because nothing is happening.
And as we said, they felt pretty optimistic this year that something would happen when we talked
Yes.
in February.
Yes, in February, when this bill and the SJR, they got out of committee, which is a huge deal that hasn't happened before. I was there when they were voted out of committee, and there was applause, there was cheering, there was a lot of hope with this. And let me be clear, there are some senators who are very much on the survivor side. They have been advocating and listening and being very sympathetic, but there are others who have other interests, and this is just getting buried under hundreds of bills. So that's why the survivors are saying, please listen to us. Please listen. We have 12 days.
SJR 93, we should point out, this, if it goes to voters, I mean, it goes to voters.
Right.
It does not guarantee that this becomes
No.
a constitutional amendment.
No, and that's what the survivors keep trying to tell these senators. All they are advocating for is that a Senate joint resolution, I mean, who knows about that unless you're in the know, right? So this would have to go through the House and Senate. The governor is not involved. And then it would go to a statewide public vote. And that would allow survivors to retroactively sue their abusers. And all they're asking for is let the public vote. It would narrowly amend the Missouri Constitution. And that's all they're asking for.
What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I'm not Nostradamus, but
Right.
my hope would be that senators would really, really listen to the survivor stories. There have been so many public testimonies. They can read it for themselves. They can see it online. They are desperate for help. I mean, imagine screaming into the wind and nobody hearing you over and over and over. And this is serious. This is childhood sexual abuse. And they have said over and over again that Missouri is an open door for pedophiles and has been for years. That is harsh language, but they say it's true. And that's, I would hope that senators in the next 12 days would really, really check themselves and listen to the survivors.
Well, and survivors are saying, show me something different.
Exactly.
You know, for years they've been doing this.
Survivors would like to have one-on-ones with these senators who maybe don't even know about this. That's what they're asking for. Just listen to us. We can have a one-on-one.
All right, we'll leave it there for now. Krista Tatchell, we know you've been following this very closely. Thank you for this context and perspective on such a difficult but important topic.
Thank you, Cody.
Krista and our KNBC9 News team are watching for updates from the state capitol as this session winds down. We'll pass those along as soon as they come in.